Yeah, but no, we are recording now. So
Did you get a double bed?
No, we're recording. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Didn't you get a double bed?
Hey, he got 2 double.
I just got fatter. That's it.
That's cute. Did you say fatter?
That's cute. Yeah.
Anyways, all right. Welcome back to whatever this is. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about men's mental health, and I just want to encourage all men out there to talk about your mental health and encourage that behavior. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So here I've got 3 wonderful people, starting from the far left. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Dylan.
And what do you do, Dylan?
I am a student.
Oh yeah,
at
student.
University of Auckland.
Yes. And what do you study?
I study biology and psychology.
Oh, very nice. How are you finding that?
It's a big shift from not doing that last semester, 2 semesters ago, because I did property and psychology. Dropped that for biology and psychology.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. Next.
Hi, I'm Jason. I work in corporate insurance broking, so I'm living the rat race.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
How's corporate insurance?
it's work.
It's work. It's work. Very nice. And finally,
Hi, I'm Ian. I just finished my studies with a Bachelor of Commerce and a Bachelor of Science, and I've just started working as a management consultant.
oh, very nice. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Shanti, and I'm a software dev at MYB. Okay, so the first question that we have today is, why do men not talk about their mental health? So I'll start with this one. But personally for me, I find that as growing up, living with Indian parents, because I'm Indian myself, I find that Indian men especially, we tend to want to be strong, or like known to be strong in the family, and we generally don't want to talk about our problems too much because we don't want to appear weak to the rest of the family. I know with my dad in particular, he's really with that because he wants us, like for example me and his wife, my mum, to talk to him when they're feeling down or when they need his help, and he doesn't want to appear weak, so he wants to continue that. So he wants to appear strong and therefore doesn't want to talk about it, and I've grown up in that kind of environment, so I sort of feel the same deal. So I'm kind of scared to feel kind of weak and a little bit like that. So that's why I personally don't want to talk about mental health issues. But considering what I've gone through this year, I found that talking about it really does help with that kind of stuff. Anyone else want to chime in on that?
Ian?
Yeah, thanks. I agree with that. I think it makes a lot of sense, and that's definitely true for me as well. But taking a step back from that, I think for me personally, it's not just about talking about it, but I think thinking about it to begin with. So I don't often think about my feelings, and I think the process starts with understanding how you're feeling, why you're feeling that way, and then having conversations about that to try and develop that thinking. So for me personally, it took a long time to develop the self-awareness to understand my feelings, and not having that understanding definitely was a barrier to me talking about them in the first place.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the historical reasons for it being difficult for men to speak about mental health. I mean, generally, well, in the past, men were expected to provide for the family, and as such, they needed to put on a strong face. That's also a concept in Asian culture, face, where you don't share your problems. You show the stoic, I have no problems in my life, everything's good, even when things are difficult. To sort of tack on to what you said, Ian, I think not only is it important for you to recognize, the feelings that you're going through and what you need to talk about, but also you need to probably find the right people to share that with. And I think a lot of people struggle to talk about these things, not only because it's hard for them to recognize, but also because, like, some people don't feel like they have friends or family who they can talk to about these things. And so that's really unfortunate. And I think the world is slowly, growing more open to listening to these things, but I mean, we've definitely got a lot of work to do. I mean, I think New Zealand as a whole has a lot of she'll be right culture that sometimes pushes men's problems to the side in terms of this. But
Yeah. We're talking about Asian men, right? Or just
Yeah,
in general?
Men in general, but from that perspective would be great.
Okay, well, from Asian men perspective, I feel like in general, Asian dad don't really talk about the feelings a lot, nor do they really are quite there, about that deep inside feeling kind of things. But That was a bad start. But I think the biggest thing in Asian mental health is just stigma of mental health. Asians have it really bad, not just men, just everywhere as well, like elderly people. The stigma of mental health is kind of frowned upon, whereas everyone just kind of act like nothing's happening. Whereas like now that we are more open about everything and there are more like demands from everyone, like mental health is getting pretty bad, and yeah, the stigma is slowly getting lifted, but it's still evidently there, and that's pretty much why people don't really talk about their mental health quite a bit, especially in Asian cultures.
Just touching on your point on self-awareness, actually, I know something that I struggled with was I wasn't self-aware that I was sort of going through sort of like mental issues of myself. Do you think that's a main contributor to why sort of men don't talk about it, just because they don't know it's happening?
I think it's very important to be aware. Well, it's very important for a person to actually acknowledge and be aware that they are going through a few things that aren't necessarily normal, because everyone experiences like the world differently, and I struggled with mental health, and I didn't realize that it was that bad up until like I kind of like realized that, oh shit, other people don't go through the same thing. But the moment you become aware about all the stuff that you are, I guess, feeling and it's not normal, that's where like
Just to add on to that, I think it's a bit of a two-way street, to be honest, in the sense that some people are perhaps aware of how they're feeling, but they don't feel comfortable talking about it for whatever like cultural or behavioral reasons. But I think on the other hand as well, part of the way you develop that understanding of how you feel is by hearing about other people talk about their feelings, right? So when you might be feeling down but you don't recognize it, if your mate says, hey, I've been feeling down lately, I can't get up out of bed, I struggle to eat, then you might recognize those as things in your life that you experience. And then you can relate those to those feelings. And I think hearing about other people's experiences definitely helps you develop that awareness. And as Ellen said, like sometimes it's difficult to know what's sort of normal or not normal. Not that that term should be used loosely in this context, but I think that definitely, creates that grounding and understanding.
Yeah, like I think if you compare like mental health issues and pain compared to physical pain, most people can recognize when they're sick or when they're hurt or when they're injured physically, but mentally a lot of people aren't, they haven't been taught, or they haven't had the ability to experience like in the correct environment to figure that out for themselves. And so only now really has the world realized that there's plenty of problems and we need to take action to help.
That's a good point. Something I wanted to actually add on was, I think we'll probably talk about it later on, was with the safe face thing. I know I know with my family in particular, there's a lot of safe face between other families as well, because with Asian culture, I feel like there's always like a competition or a race where you're like competing with other families sort of all the time. So you want to be the number one family all the time in all aspects of life. Is that something that you guys also kind of go through with as well, or?
Yeah, I think to some extent I experience that as well. And I mean, especially like, I don't know if it's necessarily the case, but my inference has been that my parents, like if my parents went and told their like aunties and uncles that my son has like depression or some other mental health illness, I think, to be quite honest, it would reflect quite poorly on how they brought me up. Whether that's true or not, it's not true at all, but I think that's what would happen, and that's probably something that like, they would be embarrassed about.
Yeah, the embarrassment is actually quite key, because I know Indian families in particular, I think if their like son or daughter are going through stuff, it does reflect poorly on like the parenting, which is I think really shit. And I don't think it's the parent's fault.
I mean,
but could be.
Being raised in like your parental household is definitely one of the keys to how you develop, but it's not everything. And I think it's tough for them to recognize that something outside of their household could reflect poorly on their child, and so for them they're pretty much taken on the chin, and so it's better to not talk about it. And for people to think everything's okay, than for them to have to face that situation, which is rather unfortunate.
Cool. This leads on very nicely to my next question, which is in terms of success. I know a lot of Asian families, we like to sort of really strive for excellence, strive for success, strive a lot, and that kind of pushes us to the brinks of our sort of physical and mental capabilities. I know for me particularly, I personally didn't really want to do like a conjoint degree, so I did an engineering and commerce degree. Unless you don't know why I did the commerce degree, because I don't really use it after 6 years of my career at all.
Should have taught me that when I started.
Don't use it at all. But I know my parents, they were like, yeah, you got to get your A's, you have to get your A's, you have to do your conjuring degree, even though at the time I really didn't see the point of doing a commerce degree. I actually personally wanted to go into entertainment, but that's something totally different. So I was supposed to do this like 5-year degree with engineering and commerce, forced to get my A's, forced to not have girlfriends and stuff like that. So I would like not tell my parents I had like partners or whatever, but okay. But yeah, do you guys go through anything? Have you gone through something similar like that before, or has that contributed to issues with you guys?
I mean, I think my parents have done well to assimilate into sort of a different mindset than expecting the same from me from back where we came from in Malaysia. Like, I don't think they expect me to get A+ for everything, but they do expect me to do well.
Yeah.
And I mean, for example, not that I was thinking of doing otherwise, but university was always the natural next option after high school. It legitimately wasn't even an option to do anything else. I'm not saying I would have, but I wouldn't have been able to even explore it even if I wanted to. So, like, there are some expectations in my household. I don't think they're necessarily like, if you don't get like a 9 GPA, then you're disowned. But
Yeah.
they definitely had expectations, and for example, they definitely always wanted me to do a university degree that will end up in a natural money earning job situation, right?
Yeah.
You know, your classic STEM degree, some of your STEM degrees, or, you know, business and finance, doctor, lawyer, all the classics. You know, if I had done something different that maybe wasn't as stable or recognized, I think I definitely would have caused more friction in my household, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, like, not so much, but in some senses, yes, as well.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, my parents wanted me to be a particular person, and I didn't end up as that person. So they wanted me to be a doctor.
Okay.
And I deviated that from that quite a bit. And it didn't impact me greatly because I, to be quite frank, didn't care too much what my parents thought. But I imagine if I did, and if I feel like when people aren't their authentic selves, they suffer from identity issues that contribute a lot to mental health issues. And so, like, if I took my parents' desires more to heart, like a lot of people do, I think, then I imagine your parents wanting you to be something and you're not that something. I think that creates a tension over there, where you're trying to get your parents' approval versus get your own life in the order that you want it to be in. And I think that can be quite like a mentally taxing thing to sort of reconcile.
Yeah.
And that's really problematic. But for me, again, that didn't happen greatly because I didn't really like value my parents' desire for my future as much as I probably should, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Do that.
Voting on to the parents' side, I think my parents have become a bit more lenient about what I do. Like, after high school, I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen.
Yeah.
My parents really wanted me to do uni, and like one month before, like 1 month notice I gave to my parents, I'm like, nah, I'm not going to be in Auckland. Went to Melbourne, and like, I guess the only thing that they wanted from me, like in terms of like life, was to get into uni. Like not get to uni, but finish uni, come back, finish uni. Not that I have to do the best that I can, just get the degree like everyone else, because that's what you need in the future. And here I am, still doing uni. Fuck. But no, building onto that, yeah, like my parents never thought like you have to strive for excellence for everything, but definitely like as long as you're doing something that you want to do, and it's going to help you in the future, like that really helps. Like, degree apparently is very important.
Yeah. How do you think parents sort of get into that line of thinking? Because I know there's other families out there that probably don't get the same treatment.
Well, it starts with you, me, deciding what you want to do or deciding what you don't want to do. When I got to high school, like, man, mental health is bad, and I was like, nah, I don't want to go straight into uni. And then that's what I decided to do. They were unsure. They were like, the fuck? They were like, why are you doing this? They're confused. And then I guess they kind of let me go, and then they came, like, over the process, they kind of accepted it. But even coming back, like, I've had to change like my uni degree like twice, and they're still kind of like, they're still hella accepted that I'm still doing it, pursuing what I want to do, they don't actually know like how, I guess, good grades I do get.
Yeah.
They only just found out like last semester, but they're like, they're just happy that I am doing something that I will eventually like.
Yeah.
Like, I think I can speak to some of what you're trying to ask about is like why do parents feel the need? I guess in our conversation is topically on university.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I think I can speak from my own experiences of my parents' generation. I think they have a bunch of siblings across my mom and dad, but I think only 2 of them even went to, let alone finished university. I mean, that wasn't an option for my parents, due to money concerns. And I think so once they managed to thrive in a new country and raise kids, it was pretty much not even an option to do anything but go through university to obtain sort of the opportunities that they didn't get.
Yeah.
I think a big thing about Asian mental health in New Zealand is we have immigrant parents, right? Who actually kind of like built up from kind of nothing if you don't have degrees, and so the pressure, the stigma of like being successful actually comes from them not having anything to start with.
Yeah.
Right.
But it goes both ways, right? It's like they want you to be way more successful than they are, but like deeply, I think there's the other side too, where they actually don't mind if you don't get the highest of everything, because at the end of the day, they kind of brought up everyone from nothing.
Just the next auxiliary question, because I just came up with this now. But did you guys have to learn an instrument when you were younger, or?
Fucking wish I did.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
Nah.
Oh shit.
I had to learn keyboard, and then I was like, Mom, Dad, please let me play something different. So I did drums for a little bit, so I have some sense of beat. But I mean, honestly,
You play drums?
You don't even listen to music. Anyways.
You don't listen to music?
Why are you roasting on a podcast?
He doesn't really listen to music.
Can you just cut him out?
I
Just cut every part he talks about. Holy.
I can't imagine Ian actually playing an instrument.
I used to play the piano and then
Oh,
the
really?
clarinet for a bit. Yeah,
Clarinet.
I was really bad at them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
At both.
No, mostly the clarinet.
Okay.
I used to play in like a sort of band orchestra type thing.
Yeah.
Concert band, I think it was called.
Yeah.
And then, so every so often they get like the entire band to play a part of the song.
Oh shit.
And then they'd hear something wrong, and they'd be like, let's go through the sections
Yeah.
It's just
and
you.
find the one that's wrong. And then once they identify the section, they go through what's called a witch hunt. And they get everyone to play it individually, and that was when I would get called out.
Oh wow.
It happened a lot.
Were you Squidward?
I was really bad, man.
Wait, so they could hear you playing incorrectly with the whole thing, but they still had to like identify.
Yeah, so they didn't know where it was
you hear
coming
the whole
from.
voice.
It's a witch
Yeah.
hunt, bro.
Yeah.
You gotta hunt them out.
And it's just like bit by bit, and you're sweating down your back. You're like, oh shit, am I gonna get caught, or
Yeah.
can I fix it by the time they get to like
Yeah.
the witch hunt? And so
Yeah.
it was an exciting time. Yeah,
Oh snap. Okay.
yeah.
I had to play piano when I was younger. I also was not.
Do you
How long
still
did you play piano?
I think 3 years.
Do you know how to play it still?
Nope.
Oh god.
I mean, I think most people have. I think it's okay that they want you to learn an instrument
Yeah.
as long as you try it.
Yeah.
It's hardest the people who have to do it for like
Yeah.
10,
Man,
15
I've-
years
yeah.
and don't want to. You know?
Yeah.
I've known people who like get forced to
Right.
to practice piano at
Right.
like
Yeah.
7, 8 p.m. to like grade whatever the highest they can get.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm lucky that I did not. I'm not
Like,
in that kind of
I
household.
think it's okay if your parents want you to
I think
try
so,
something, but
yeah.
it's another thing if they force you to continue. And
Yeah.
there are definitely people
Yeah.
who are in that situation.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Because I think my parents just wanted me to do like extracurricular stuff just to like sort of broaden
Yeah.
It's
my
fair.
like, knowledge, which is good. But I know they wanted to force me a little bit to like progress higher, but they knew I just wasn't getting it. Like when you fail an exam like 3 times, they'll be like your piano.
Is that real?
That is real. Like
Oh,
I could not progress to grade 4.
So pretend like you're holding an apple, bro.
Actually, I just had no finger dexterity. You know what I mean? Like, I just very bad at fingers, unfortunately.
Okay.
Alright. Oh, very nice.
That's great to know.
Yeah. So this goes on to my next question here. So it's all about comparisons. So with yourself, do you find that you compare yourself to other people in terms of what you're doing, your success, so where you are with your life? Like, or like, do you think that's having a positive impact on your life or like a negative impact?
I think like having a form of competition
Mm.
is generally healthy. I mean, because apathy is not always the best either. However, it can be very hard when you hear it all the time. I know it's quite common, at least in the households that I'm around, to be told, you know, this person's son is a doctor or this person's son's an astronaut. Obviously, I'm being a bit
You're an
facetious,
astronaut.
but you know, like everybody's seen the meme of that Korean American doctor, Navy SEAL
That
astronaut.
guy's how?
I don't know
Like,
how that's possible.
That's
like
insane.
obviously, not everyone is that, but if you get compared to someone who has, you know, a large list of what people consider achievements in
Yeah.
life, it can be very difficult. And
Yeah.
I mean, even in your own households, if you get compared to your cousins, to your siblings, to your family friends, it can be hard.
Mhm.
And especially if you feel like you're genuinely trying your best,
Mm.
and sometimes that's the world we live in. You just don't get what you want. And then not only are you disappointed in yourself, but you have to hear about it from someone else.
Yeah.
It can always be really tough.
Mm-hmm.
You may know an astronaut, but I know a grade 3 piano player right here.
Oh, thank you.
Is grade 3 the lowest or highest? No,
It's like I
It's
think
not
it's
the
grade
highest.
8.
Is grade 8 the
Grade
highest?
8 is the highest.
So you just stayed at grade 3.
Grade 3,
Ah.
Which is
Yeah.
perfectly fine.
which is fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I wish I retained some piano, but
I-
I wish you did as well.
the spare my fingers.
I mean,
Multiple times.
unlucky.
Unlucky. Continue on.
Oh, so I think it depends on the person,
Yeah.
and like my personal view on this is some people function well like benchmarking and comparing against other
Mhm.
people, and some people don't. But I think the point is that, you know, you should manage it like to your personal preferences,
Mhm.
and that people shouldn't be comparing you if you don't want to be compared.
Yeah.
So my parents did it a lot, but it didn't bother me hugely.
Yeah.
But that's not the case for everyone. And I
Mm.
think that, you know, if you were continuously being compared to an astronaut or a grade 3 piano player,
Yeah.
then it
Cool.
can get a bit tiresome.
Yeah.
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 I definitely want to be compared to by the grade 3.
It's hard to beat.
Yeah. I think the key is like recognizing that people have different sets of circumstances
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of govern them. So like, you know, I think a lot of the comparisons that are made are kind of pretty unfair because people have different situations,
Mm.
and like there's a lot that you don't see when you compare your performance against someone's performance.
Absolutely.
There's
Mhm.
a lot below the tip of the iceberg that you just don't see, and maybe they're sad as hell,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's actually going to crumble on them in the next, like, you know, 12 to 18 months or whatever
Yeah,
it
yeah,
may be. So I think when you make comparisons, it's fine if it works for you, but you have to consider that there's so much you don't know
Mhm.
in making that comparison. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I compare, well, my parents don't really compare me, but I like to compare myself in two separate things. So academically, I like to be top.
Yeah.
If I can, but I know that like the iceberg reference, like I know that me trying to get to top means like all the other stuff underneath is like kind of shit
Mm.
because I'm sacrificing a lot of things to get academically to the top. But in terms of like what I want to do and stuff I like, the person I am, I don't really compare myself. I just go with the flow,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how I kind of like taught myself to be mentally better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
hard.
it's
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to compare yourself and be okay
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Do you find that exposure to like social media, like you sort of automatically go down the whole like comparison route?
I think social media's definitely made it harder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the classic case of social media is somebody's highlights.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
highlight
exactly.
reel, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
But everybody sees it as somebody's life. Nobody sees the
Yeah.
arguments, they see the mistakes, they see,
Mhm.
you know, they see all the blood, sweat, and tears in the background.
Yeah.
But they only see the nice shiny photo
Yeah.
that appears on the feed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so manufactured. Yeah.
I don't like social media.
And the one other thing
Not
I'd say is someone once made an observation to me, and I think it's very true, is that we often mentally we combine the achievements of lots of different people together into one superhuman, and then we end up comparing ourselves against this fake artificial creature we create.
Mm.
So you might scroll through your feed and you see someone's at the gym working out and they're freaking huge.
Mhm.
You see someone with like, you know, a really like attractive partner and a good relationship. You see someone with a fantastic job and they're traveling around the country with their job or whatever. And I think you tend to compare against each one of them, but not any one of them has all three of those kind of achievements lined up.
Mm-mm.
But you yourself are actually making those comparisons. And I think that's really harmful because no one can be excellent at everything, but often I think we manufacture that kind of image in our head and then we
Yeah.
compare ourselves against this fake person,
Yeah.
and that's incredibly harmful.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So another question I kind of wanted to ask was, where do you think sort of the mental issues sort of happen onto someone, or what's promoting mental health problems amongst men? I know particularly for myself, I feel like it's a lot self-inflicted at times. I put a lot of pressure on myself, like we talked about, comparing with other people, with other things. I put so much pressure on myself for like unknown amount of reasons, and I think that causes a lot of issues with my own mental health and stuff, and I struggle with that. And I sort of, I sometimes feel that I'm not like good enough, I'm not there yet, and it's a lot of self-inflicted pressure for me. But where do you guys, where does it come for you guys, or how do you feel it comes about?
I think people don't give enough credit for themselves. Like, say you put yourself a lot of pressure, right? And that's where your mental health kind of like stems, right? And yeah, like people who go through bad mental health don't actually see how good they're doing. Like I saw something on Facebook and it was just saying like, oh, people have like, there are people who could get like straight A students, single mothers, like freaking raising kids, or like just anyone who's in a bad position is dealing with that, like acing that out while dealing with everything they're dealing with mentally. Yeah, like they don't realize that how good they are. When they ask to compare themselves with other people, they'd be like, oh, that person's doing amazing, that person's doing amazing, but they don't see themselves in a positive light where they're like, oh, actually, I'm a straight A student, or actually, I'm a single mother looking after 3 kids, right? So it's a lot of it is to do with, I guess, the brain, because you can see like people who get clinical depression or anxiety actually have if you look at the MRI of their brains for a typical person, like it's quite different. It's quite obvious which parts are being affected. So in terms of like how mental health comes from, sometimes it just stems by itself from like thoughts, because thoughts are just neurons connecting to each other and making signals, right? If your thoughts go shit down like a black hole, that stuff chemically actually alters your brain. It's pretty sad. Yeah.
So it kind of comes down to self-awareness, but you're saying it's like generic, you could probably, like, possible to inherit this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Like, if you have a family history of like schizophrenia or like bipolar, you have like a high percentage of getting that, because that's all inherited.
Oh, interesting. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
In saying that though, and I'm not like a psychologist or any expert per se, but like I think some of those are overcomeable, so it's not like you're guaranteed to get it or whatever. So, if you have family history of mental illnesses, don't feel like you're doomed and everything's going to like go to crap for you. It's definitely overcomeable, and I think that's where like early intervention comes in. So in my view, and I think I've been quite fortunate with my experiences in that I haven't had very like serious mental health illnesses or like mental health experiences, but I think there's a spectrum. Everyone has some level of, we've had like bad weeks and it's been particularly bad, and some people have clinically diagnosed illnesses. So I think like the transition there sometimes is because you don't recognize it early and you don't have these interventions early on. And as they say in like all forms of medicine, like early intervention and prevention is better than cure.
I agree with that. Because like I actually appreciate professional help. I think a lot of my mental health actually stem from being undiagnosed with ADHD. But the moment I acknowledge that what it is I'm going through and why I struggle with the things I struggle with in terms of like life, kind of puts a brighter light towards everything and makes everything else like in the forthcoming better than if you were just like in that dark hole. So yeah, definitely seek people. It's actually okay with that.
All right, the last question I wanted to sort of ask you guys was, how do you guys cope with like sort of mental health stuff? Like when you're feeling low, when you're feeling a bit sick, I guess. Like how do you sort of cope with that? What do you sort of do? I know I personally hit the gym. I love working out. I found that working out just gets a lot of like good chemicals in my brain, makes me feel good. I know just running and stuff just makes me sort of reflect on certain things that are going on. A lot of fresh air as well when you do workout. So that's me. But how do you guys go on about that?
So I do, two main things that are quite opposite in nature. One is the same as you, is I exercise, don't necessarily go to the gym, go out for a run, play sport, especially with friends. It's always good to be a little bit distracted. The other thing I do is I meditate. Just try and clear my mind, declutter, pretty much for as long as I can go. And I guess on a separate note is, I think if I personally have some friends that I feel like I can speak to about mental health stuff, And so if it's really bad enough where I feel like I need to like cope, if it's not something so minor that it'll pass, then I will find somebody to talk to, and I hope everybody can find somebody in their life, you know, who they're comfortable enough to talk to about things like that.
Cool.
Yeah. For me, also the same. I think I have like healthy coping mechanisms, like playing sport, and playing ultimate frisbee with you guys was a big part of that as well. Some days it made me play worse. Some days I played better defense because I was mad, so that worked out. So that's like part of my healthy coping mechanism set. And then I have unhealthy coping mechanisms, like I eat a lot of junk food, so comfort food, like I would smash out a box of roses in half an hour. Or
Half a box?
No, a box.
A box. Oh my god.
yeah, just one after the other. God, it was so
In like
good.
one sitting?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
I would do things like that, and then spending money. Oh, that's so good. Going to Kmart and like buying stupid stuff.
Oh yeah.
How good is that? Like,
What's the stupidest things you bought?
Stupidest thing I've bought?
On these kind of spending sprees?
Oh, I think one time I bought a tablet because I was just a bit sad.
From Kmart.
A tablet?
No, not from Kmart.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, and funnily enough, that tablet probably helps with my third like unhealthy coping mechanism, and that's watching a lot of like binge watching TV shows.
Oh yeah.
So I watch shows like How I Met Your Mother or like Community over and over again in bed. Again, not the most healthy way to do it, but I mean sometimes you don't have the energy to go out and do the kind of healthy things you should do.
Yeah.
Right. Nice. Okay. Coping mechanisms. I like to keep myself busy. Like if I don't like having free time, I'm always either doing a lot of admin, beekeeping, starting new projects, different projects, just like making sure I'm not just like always alone. I don't like wasting time, pretty much. Yeah. And I've learned to be able and happy to talk to people about feelings. Yeah. So it's you guys, few other mates. Even my flat now has been really open about like mental health, and I think that's really cool.
That's cool. Well, you mentioned being alone. What did you mean?
As in, like, I don't like. See, when for me, it's like I don't like not doing anything. Yeah. I hate that feeling.
Yeah.
So is that a coping mechanism for mental health?
Yeah, because
or is that just you in general?
It's a bit of mental health. Like it's like when I'm alone for too long, or like I have nothing to do, I feel kind of like a bit useless. Like that kind of feeling.
Like jittery.
Yeah, I feel like I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've always, because I've ADHD, I've always have a motor. I want to do stuff, and I will get it done. If I don't do what I want to do, I feel sad about it. And so the easiest thing to do is just do it.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I feel like it's also self-perpetuating in the sense that when I get sad, I don't end up being very productive, and then I get sad about not being productive.
Think about it, right? Like I could be
fair.
doing nothing, or I could be doing admin for like a team of 20 people, which making everyone happy, and I'm happy. I believe in the altruism of like doing things for other people.
Cool. All right, cool. Thanks, guys. That's all I kind of had for you guys. Is there any sort of final thoughts you wanted to sort of add before we close off?
I feel like if you are in a position where you feel like you're struggling, and you don't feel like everything's looking bright, it's actually okay, and I encourage seeing professional help. A psychiatrist itself might seem overwhelming, but like start with the doctor, GP, and the therapist, and then if things need to build on, like they know the pathway to what you need, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, if you have people in your life who you're comfortable speaking to about these kind of things, definitely reach out to them. You know, when you're struggling, and if you don't have people, I highly recommend finding people in your life who you can speak to about these things, and definitely reach out to somebody who maybe you haven't spoken to in a while, and maybe they might be struggling, and you never know, you could brighten someone's day.
And for me personally, if you're like scared or you're kind of intimidated about all of this, and you know you feel like you would be maybe too self-conscious to speak to someone or whatever, there are lots of resources available out there that you can like read up on and understand your mental conditions better and your mental health generally better. So there's stuff like the Lowdown, for example, or the like Youth Line if you want to speak to someone anonymously, because I feel like that independence often helps people speak more honestly and authentically, because no one's there to judge you. You're never going to speak to this person again. So those resources, the lowdown, you fly, and they're very helpful, and definitely like use them if you feel like that's a stepping stone to you kind of getting further treatment if you require it. But if it's just something minor and you want to just get something quick, then definitely like check them out.
Cool. Thank you so much, guys. That's all I really had for everyone. But for everyone listening, I just want to add on that if you are struggling out there, like these guys said, find someone to talk to, a loved one or a professional. I think there is a lot of strength in being vulnerable and sharing your feelings and sort of being self-aware, like we talked about, and sort of realizing that something is going wrong or something's not right, and then having and I think that there's a lot of tools out there that can help you with that. So a lot of strength with vulnerability, and I think us men just need to be courageous in sort of achieving that goal. So thanks for listening. Hopefully more episodes will be coming out soon. Thank you for your enjoyment. Thanks for coming. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening.
Nice.
Cool. Sweet.
That's a wrap.
Make sure you keep that nice in there.